Good afternoon. Welcome to On the Pew. Today, my special guest is the Reverend Larry Marshall Sr. Reverend Marshall is the senior pastor of the Bickford Community Baptist Church here in Memphis, Tennessee. If I'm not mistaken, it's in North Memphis on 7th Street, correct? 6th Street. 6th. I knew it was one of them. 4th, 5th, 6th, 2nd. All of them are downtown Memphis. And I just wanted to thank him for being my special guest today.
Thank you.
We were together earlier this afternoon around noon celebrating the homegoing of one of our Binghamton sisters, the late Mrs. Denise Lacey. And after the services, after her memorial services, the Lord just led me to him. And I went to him outside on the parking lot just to speak. And he was asking me, Reverend, what are you doing? What you got going on? And I said, how are you doing? And I said, I'm feeling just fine. And I said, but at 3 o'clock, I'm getting ready to tape. And I would like for you to be my special guest. And so he said, okay. And so he obliged me, and he's here with me today. I just wanted to give you a little history about our relationship. Reverend Marshall is my elder brother in the ministry. And before I go into that, most of you all know that I am the owner of Take a Pew Holistic Health Lounge. Most people know me as a social worker and a small business entrepreneur. But for some of my newer viewers, they don't know that I am a woman of the cloth. I have been in ministry for a little over 30 plus years. And so today I want to be a little bit more biblical based or spiritual based with this broadcast on today. And so again, as I said, Reverend Marshall obliged me to come out today. I didn't have a topic. I don't have a topic. I still don't have a topic. And a lot of times when people are broadcasting, when they're podcasting, they're usually very uniformed and they know what they're going to say. However, I'm just going to let the Lord guide our conversation on today. But as I stated before, Reverend Marshall is my elder brother in the ministry, and we met at our home church. And I get tickled when I say my home church, because most people know that I do have 2 home churches, and that'll be in my upcoming book, which talks about my life and the history of Binghamton. And so Reverend Marshall was or still is a member of the First Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church, and my mother was a member there, and my father was a member of the Greater New Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in the Orange Mound community. However, he and I both met at 290 Tillman Street under the leadership of the late Reverend U.L. Allen. And so today, he is my first guest from my home church, from Pleasant Hill that is, and we are sitting on the pew that the both of us have preached from and got our preaching experience, got our singing experience, foot stomping experience, praying experience, baptismal experience from. And I was just teasing with him because I have 2 pews in the building, and this pew I'm sitting on, or the both of us are sitting on, I told him is my pew, and the pew across from us is the pew that he sat on when we were at the church. And so the pews were gifted to me a couple of years ago, and I was initially, Reverend Marshall, going to put them in my bed and breakfast. But this business came before the bed and breakfast, and here we are sitting on the pew. So I'm not going to keep talking. I'm going to let him talk a little bit. But as I said, he is one of the elder brothers in the ministry from the First Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church. There are many others that have gone on. The late Reverend, as I said, our pastor U.L. Allen, the Reverend Earl Shelton, the Reverend Elmore Stewart, and then I sat hip to hip, peer to peer with the Reverend Napoleon Young and many others to name. Reverend Marshall is one of those men or male pastors who was very accepting of female preachers. And so he was one of many men who gave me an opportunity to come and preach before his flock. And I just want to thank him. Not only did he give me the opportunity to come over to preach before his flock, his family, his children, and I know his wife and one son, and maybe that one son also were patrons of Vale's Beauty Shop, which was my mother's beauty salon at 365 Tillman. And y'all always hear me talk about Tillman. Tillman was a major thoroughfare, a major street, a major intersection in my life, and not just in my life, but in many lives. But he helped through just sending his family to the shop to get their hair done, which enabled me to have some of the things in life that I desired to have. And I call that just patronizing black businesses back in the 80s, and patronizing female entrepreneurs at that time. And I'm so grateful for him because, you know, at that time, folk were wearing jerry curls, and I think that's what his son was coming in to get, Larry Marshall Jr. And, you know, that's money when you getting cold wave and you got to rod all that stuff up. But I thank you because that fed me. And so he, again, has been a vital part of my ministry. I could go to him and talk to him about just about anything that I think I wanted to talk to him about. And then another thing, I don't think he minds me sharing, since we are here at Take a Pew Holistic Health Lounge, he is a survivor. He has been healed from cancer. You don't mind me saying anything about it. And everybody knows that I am a 23-year bilateral, 2-time breast cancer survivor. And so Reverend Marshall, he is an extraordinary person. This man does martial arts. He self-taught himself to play the piano. He cycles like for miles and miles. He's a father. He's a husband. He's a pastor. And he's a retired Shelby County School employee. He's just, you know, extraordinary guy. And oftentimes we always put known notables, we always talk about them, but we have some grassroots people in our community that are doing good things, not only in the community in which they live, but also in the community in which they serve, the communities in which they work in. And as I said, he is an adopted child of Binghamton, came to the First Pleasant Hill Church, and has become a Binghamton resident, even though he is from North Memphis. He has done extraordinary things. Reverend Marshall, I just want you now to just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Again, I thank you for being here today. You can just speak on whatever you want to say, and we'll just, again, let the conversation be guided by the Holy Spirit.
You know, it's amazing. I'm glad thank you for having me this morning, this afternoon. And it's always an honor to be in your presence.
Yes, sir.
And you know, it's amazing how you remember that I was a martial artist. Mm-hmm. Most people look at me as just being a preacher. Mm-hmm. They relate to me every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. I do a live feed. Mm-hmm. And they recognize me as being a preacher. Mm-hmm. But I have contributed into the martial arts ever since 1969. Mm-hmm. So
that's the year I was born.
And I'm a second degree black belt, mm-hmm. honorary third degree, and I find that once my instructor took me under his wings, and he taught me all the way up to where I am now. And when I became a brown belt, I began to teach youngsters. I realized that in order to relate to young people, you have to give them something that they want to do, and you have to give them something that's interesting. So not only was I preaching, I was also giving them the martial arts, which is a form of a discipline. So like I said, it was amazing how you brought that in, and I thank you for it, because like a lot of people don't realize that you can use a different culture, in teaching, and at the same time incorporate it with the ministry, and I did that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I used to, like you can just say, I bribe a lot of the youngsters and say, in order for you to be in my karate class for free, you have to come to the church. And once they did that, they became quite active, and they became productive citizens in the neighborhood. And when I moved over here in Hampton in 1982, for a matter of fact, I had a massive karate class in my backyard. So that's a little bit of my history there. And of course, some I love preaching. Well, I've been preaching now. I accepted my calling in 1986. So I've been kind of like passing that along the ministry ever since then. And most people don't believe that at my age that I'm still practicing the martial arts. At the age of 67, I've had both hips replaced. I had knee surgery, foot surgery, back surgery, and I find that with the meditation that you have in karate and through the words of God, it gives me strength to do the things that I do. And I find that by training, even in my backyard, I begin to lure the younger generation, the youngest kids in my neighborhood, and that's how I kind of, like you say, interceded with the teaching of the gospel. And
so 67, and I think I came to visit you, I did, last year. And I sat on the porch with you. And I think you were telling me you had ridden your bike. Well, you were feeling a little down. So when I came back, I brought you the products, some soursop, moringa, black seed, so forth and so on, elderberry, and I can't quite remember if I gave you some sea moss. But you were telling me you were a little tired. But I think you rode your bike up the Green Mile.
Not just up the Green Mile. I start from Tilburg on a single speed bike, not a 10-speed, not a 5-speed, but a single speed bike, all the way to the Pinnacle. And I turn back around and come back. Now, exercising is very good, for especially a person my age. So yes, I love biking, and I have gotten into kayaking. I don't know why, but I just love kayaking. And the missus, of course, I'm married. She's quite concerned about kayaking.
Yeah.
But I think that in order to be successful in life, meditation, which the Word of God, nutrients.
Right.
You got to have the proper nutrients in your body, and exercise.
Exercise, correct. And that's, most folks think preachers, all they do is preach. And I tell my younger co-laborers in the gospel that you need to have a balance in life. And everybody know, I don't care, they can call me the dancing preacher. I love to dance. It can be whatever kind of dance it is. I used to go to the Y and take folk dancing. I like line dancing. I like all types of music.
So you try square dancing?
Square dancing. I did all of that at the Y before they closed on Walker Avenue. So square dancing is a mind thing. I mean, it's challenging because you got to remember all the little, and all
promenade,
that. Yes, and oh man, I thought line dancing was in and of itself was something, but you have to remember the two-stepping and the square dancing, which is really fun. Now, everybody knows that I love fishing.
Well, that is one of the trademarks of being a preacher.
Yeah, well, so I love fishing, and I got into fly fishing some 10, 12 years ago with the Nashville Music City Fly Girls through this program called Casting for Recovery for Breast Cancer Survivors. So that has always been my pastime. We have family we had great uncles in Mississippi, and we would go down to Red Banks or Byhalia to the pond after whatever services or whatever homecoming, and I would cast my little pole out as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and I just kept fishing up until now. And so, you know, with being in ministry, there are a lot of times people tend to pull at you and can kind of, you know, ministry can be a little draining, a lot draining, if you don't know how to have that outlet to kind of debrief and to take a moment for yourself. And as I stated to you earlier, I'm in a transition mode of restoration. I started preaching in the 8th grade. I just never told nobody. My 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Carolyn Hawkins Shaw, was instrumental in allowing me to do a lot of pros in the 8th grade at Sherwood Junior High. Not only that, there was this a lady, she's still living, Mrs. May Frances Martin, who is a former Shelby County Schools educator and who was also a member of my dad's church, would also give me all these prose pieces during Easter, Christmas, or whatever. And so I just like literature. And so with that, I don't know why I didn't major in lit or in history, but the Lord led me to social work, and you know, social work and ministry go hand in hand. And so I just appreciated the fact that we were trained under an untrained leader, so to speak. I don't mean it in that way.
When you said that, you make me think about what they said about the disciples.
Yes.
They said that disciples was untrained, but when you have a personal experience with God, you know, especially the Word itself, then that supersedes. You know, we find, to me, I find that knowledge comes from God.
Right, but he had wisdom, and you know, for years and years and years, he would always say, "There's no one that's gonna ever preach in my pulpit," you know. And that particular Sunday, Reverend Napoleon Young, he preached. I don't even remember Napoleon's sermon, and I don't know, for some strange reason, I sat on that second pew in the church on the right side, and it seemed like he was looking dead at me. And you know, prior to you going to pastor at Bickford, I tried to do everything to justify not preaching the gospel. And so
why is it that
we run from the gospel?
Why do preachers actually run from the gospel?
I don't know.
Because I'm hearing you saying that you was eighth grade?
8th grade, so 10 years. It took me 10 years.
I was 5 years old when I realized that God was calling me to be a preacher, but it wasn't until 1986. I was like 30, now about 27 years old, when I actually accepted my calling.
At the church?
At that church, yeah. You know,
I remember that. I remember that day.
And would you believe it, that day when I went up to the pulpit and turned around and went back and got my Bible and went back to the pulpit, I had all of that built up from, you say, what, 1960, all of that built up into me to 1986 till I wanted to preach right then.
Right. I remember that. I was in 11th grade.
You was 11th grade then?
In 1986.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm 52
I've
now.
been doing it that long.
Yes. So that's. So yeah, I remember that quite well. So I just think, people don't they don't really realize the weight. But what I was getting ready to say, this man, when I told him that day Napoleon preached that the Lord had called me to preach, he stopped worship. No, he had just given the benediction, and he told everybody to stop. And he gave me the microphone, and he said, I want you to tell all these people what you just told me. Now I'm 24 years old. So I told him that the Lord has called me to preach the gospel. Fast forward a few years prior, no woman could ever come into his pulpit. Ain't no woman this, that, or the other. And to that day, Reverend Allen was all open arms. And they still joke and tease me. It was a lot of us. Mm-hmm. And they always said, you were his favorite, but I wasn't.
You were.
I was not.
You was his first female preacher.
I was his first female preacher. Mm-hmm. And so, he allowed me to go with him. Today, Portia was talking about how we went to the country back in the day at the memorial, how we would go to these visiting churches and they fed us, so forth and so on. And so whenever we went to the visiting churches, he would always want me to come to the pulpit, to the pastor study to see how men interact. And so I saw, and so to this day, I don't really hardly go into any studies unless it's
let me tell you something. With that training, with that segregation against lady preachers, that established something within me. When we formed Bickford Community Missionary Baptist Church, if they did not accept, because I had before she passed, a female Minister Handy. Yeah. She was my assistant pastor. Mm-hmm. And if a church did not accept her,
you wouldn't go.
I wouldn't go back.
Right.
And not realizing a lot of at that particular time, during your era, like you were like paved the way for a lot of women preachers during this time. They not realizing that God had used lady preachers. Mm-hmm. For matter of fact, to give the gospel in the beginning. He told Mary Magdalene, go tell the brethren that I have risen like I said I would. Now that's the gospel. And like I say, for a preacher not to accept a lady into the pulpit, it's like going against what God had already ordained. I have plenty of scriptures that would support that, so. And if you look at it now, we have some great, during this era now, we have some great women preachers now. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the great
Pastor Gina Stewart.
No, yeah, I was thinking on the term of Shirley Caesar.
Okay.
We got some great preachers. Mm-hmm. And to shut them out from the pulpit, I say that's blasphemy.
Yes.
And like I said, you've always been an eloquent speaker. And I long to see you.
Like, when I pastored for that number of years, I knew evangelism was always my calling. The pastorate was a great experience, but evangelism is who I am. Okay. As a social worker, that's evangelism. Preaching the gospel, for me, I get joy going into the community. Okay. That's where the Lord has me. The gifts of helps, the gifts of exhortation, those are all my gifts. And so, we had these. If these pews could talk,
oh yeah,
we have some serious conversations. And you know, again, I thank God for the late Reverend U.L. Allen, and I thank him because he allowed me the opportunity to exercise my right to preach the gospel. And then you being a son of his and allowed me to come over to your ministry and preach to your congregation, and they know who I am. I thank God for that. And so, you know, if there's one thing that I take from that church that is a custom and a tradition from First Pleasant Hill was when we had our first Sunday fellowship, right-handed fellowship. Nowhere else in the world could we ever get that right-handed fellowship, and we sing, "Let us all go back to the old landmark."
Well, you know, that's one of my favorite songs that I sang on
First Sunday.
On not only on First Sunday, but on my live feed at church, Old Landmark and Sweeping Through the City. Because
yes, I couldn't think of that. That's your song, because I like to see Sweep to the City. Well, Reverend Marshall, I want to thank you again for just being my guest here on the pew, and literally we are sitting on the pew. I know we could talk forever from Genesis to Revelation about our experience at First Pleasant Hill, our experiences as preachers, our health, and hopefully you'll come back real soon and be my guest. And the next time you come, I'm gonna try to get all of us that were once ministers there. So Melissa, Charles Winton Jr., Jeffrey Vaults, again, Reverend Marshall. We gotta all come back, and Pat Van Zandt, Minister Patricia Van Zandt. We're gonna get everybody on the pew.
The singing preachers.
Yeah, the singing preachers, and we're gonna get everybody to come and fellowship with us for our next segment of Preachers on the Pew. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I wanna thank